Chapter 4. A week later, Juma walked into Lance's office on a sunny Friday afternoon, 4 weeks since he'd begun the investigation. He had with him the report of his findings. He had wanted to word it in a way that would cause minimum damage to Lance's mental health. But there was no way he could go around it. No matter how unpalatable, he had the right to know the truth. There was a short moment of uncomfortable pleasantries because Lance was eager to see the detective's results and get it over with. Settling on the comfortable couch on the other side of Lance's desk, Juma watched him go through the 6-page report, his brow furrowing with each paragraph. At one moment, Lance paused and looked at him as if doubting the findings that were recorded in the pages he held in his hands. The pain of betrayal was clear as day, and Juma wished he could have brought better news. He watched him read it over and over repeatedly, in disbelief, then after what seemed like a lifetime, placed it on his desk, folded his arms across his chest, and addressed Juma. "So that is who Pendo is? A loose killer, swindler, my stepbrother's mother, and also—" He couldn't finish the sentence. The shock and pain were too much. "I am afraid so, Lance. DNA results have confirmed it," Juma answered, his voice somber. "She lived a lie, and those closest to you withheld the truth." Lance's voice broke as he grappled with the revelations. "My father silently watched me continue a relationship with his mistress, the mother of his child?" The room filled with the weight of his despair. Juma stood by, offering a silent apology, the gravity of the situation settling in like a thick fog. He wondered what he would do if he were in Lance's shoes. Probably something terrible. And she carried on with me as if nothing was wrong, as if she did not even know why he hated her so much. And he also didn't tell me the truth when I took her home to introduce her. Even Mum never said a word. All this time, he whimpered, the shock too much to bear. "I am so sorry, Lance. I was shocked when I found out. My own father let me carry on with his mistress, the mother to his son, and never said a word. That is hard to understand. And she only packed and left when he threatened to tell me about their history. Why would she care if I found out? Apparently she loves you and did not want to see you hurt. She left because she thought you'd never find out." Juma responded, "Ha ha ha ha, love me. Is she even capable of loving someone?" he asked mockingly. "Don't ask me, man, don't. I cannot explain how some people think and how she thought you will never find out. If not about her past ties to your father, then of the son, who looks so much like Horo, it's shocking. When you asked me to find for you a copy of my father's phone records, I had no idea it would result in this. I did not prepare for such results, Juma. I thought it might help to find Pendo, but not like this. Not like this. And to find he was in daily contact with her all that time when I was here losing my mind kills me. True, those records helped disclose a very painful truth, but none of us expected to find out how messy the situation was. That one number rang suspicious because of the odd hours he would call it. I was shocked when I called it, and her answering machine picked up, "It is Pendo. Please leave a message after the tone." I introduced myself and why I was calling, and within few minutes she called back and asked me if I could go to her. She was tired and wanted to talk. She did not sound shocked. It was as if she knew this day would come and had been preparing for it. Lance just stared at him pensively, his thoughts far away. A silence ensued, and Juma found himself immersed in the recollection of his encounter with Pendo. He and his trusted aide, Scupa, had boarded a flight to the seaside city where Pendo resided in a beachfront house. The sheer luxury of her lifestyle, evident in the grandeur of her mansion with a veranda offering a panoramic view of the beach, had initially taken him aback. The mesmerizing dance of the azure waves and the fishermen battling to steady their boats amidst the turbulent waters had been a sight to behold. They'd sat on the bamboo chairs on the veranda, patiently waiting for Pendo to wrap up phone call. Earlier, when she had kindly offered them a cold beverage, they had politely declined. They had already made up their minds that she was not someone they could place their trust in. Eventually, she had joined them outside and, after some niceties, delved into the matter at hand, but before long they had been interrupted by the arrival of a toddler, barely 4 years old. Both men, familiar with Horo due to his frequent appearances in the news, had been startled by the striking resemblance the child bore to him. Their curious gazes had shifted to Pendo, who had remained unfazed. Without any coaxing, she had confessed that the young boy, named Tunda Jr. by her ex-husband, was indeed Horo's son. "Yes, I was unfaithful to my ex-husband," she had admitted, her face devoid of remorse, as if her actions were commonplace. "Horo was a regular client of our company, and our professional relationship gradually evolved into a personal one. When I discovered my pregnancy, I initially assumed the child was my husband's. However, upon his birth, I realized it was Horo's. My husband, Tundra, remained oblivious, and seeing no reason to disrupt my marital stability, I chose silence. When Tunda Jr. was 2 years old, I discovered that he knew about my infidelity because he confronted me. I was certain he would divorce me, and before he could take any action, I made my move. Tunda had a dependency on sleeping pills, and when I overheard him telling his mother about his struggles in our marriage and his intention to file for divorce, my plan was set in motion. I spiked his nightcap with an excessive dose of his pills." Juma stared at her in sheer disbelief. Either the woman was completely off her rocker or she was a raging psychopath. As if reading their minds, she'd added, "You may wonder why I'm disclosing all this, but I'm tired of the pretense my life has been. I yearn to liberate myself from this burden of secrets and guilt, and you're free to report me to the authorities. I'm exhausted from all of it." Juma and Skupa had exchanged shocked looks. Then Skupa had asked, "If you're prepared to confess and accept the consequences of your actions, why did you flee?" The room had filled with a chilling silence, the question hanging in the air like a ghost of some sort. Gently stroking her son's hair, who had drifted off to sleep in her arms, she had confessed, "Horo threatened to expose everything to Lance. I was unable to bear it. I realized then that I could no longer resist his demands. I had to leave. As you may have discovered by now, Horo persistently insisted that Lance should forget about me. He gave countless reasons, such as me not being good enough for him, or not being the right fit to help Lance in running his business empire once he eventually handed over the reins to him. He had a myriad of excuses, but he couldn't bring himself to mention the real reason he wanted me gone. He didn't want Lance to know, and neither did I, but now I'm exhausted. I'm revealing everything." Before you ask, Sarah, his wife, was aware of the affair, but seemed indifferent to her husband's infidelity. They have an agreement where Horo is free to do as he pleases, and she gets to live a life that only a few can afford, as long as she keeps quiet and stays out of his affairs. Good heavens, Pendo. You must have known he was Horo's son when you met him, right? Why would you date him when you had already been with his father? Isn't that appalling? Skupa exclaimed in horror. Juma feared he might attack her, but Skupa managed to restrain his anger. I fell in love. He is the first man I ever truly loved. I couldn't help myself, and now I wish I had, she admitted, her eyes welling up with tears. I've made so many mistakes that sometimes it's hard to live with myself. I've always been self-centered since I was a child, and I despise myself for it, she whimpered, appearing genuinely remorseful for once. Is that why you set your parents' house on fire? Juma inquired. Pendo seemed taken aback by the question, then narrowed her eyes and retorted, Did that old woman tell you that? That I murdered my own parents? She once accused me of killing my parents just as I had killed her son. Did you, Pendo? Skupa, once again struggling to control his emotions, demanded. As messed up as I may be, I didn't kill them, but I could have saved them and I didn't. They fought all the time, and maybe part of me wanted them gone, I truly don't know. I was young and stupid and did not know any better. I was studying for my end-term exams when I noticed smoke seeping from behind their bedroom door. I was alone at the table, studying under the light of my hurricane lamp, when I saw the smoke. I got up, nudged their door open slightly, and noticed that a cigarette butt dropped by my dad had landed on a pile of dirty laundry. I remember thinking that they would wake up as soon as the smoke hits their nostrils. Besides, my mother had always been imploring my father to quit smoking, emphasizing its detrimental effects on his health. I also speculated that perhaps the fire would serve as a deterrent to his smoking habit, that the fear it instilled would deter him from ever lighting up another cigarette. I turned away, collected my books, and went to sit under the moonlight to wait for them. In no time, the fire had consumed the house, and I didn't have time to go back and check on them. In retrospect, I suspect the fumes might have incapacitated them long before the fire did. So yes, I might have failed to wake them up because I thought the fire will scare my father to never smoke again, but I didn't start that fire," she asserted defiantly, her gaze meeting both of theirs. Juma noticed she did not look remorseful about it. Scuppa and Juma were at a loss for words. She clearly was not right in the head. She needed to be in a psychiatric ward before she did more damage to people. She was self-absorbed, selfish, and many more things they could not even imagine. "Well, all right. It is not our place to administer justice, but you should be behind bars, Pendo," Juma remarked, chewing at his lower lip, something he did when overwhelmed. "Believe me, I know. I might even turn myself in, but who will look after Tunda Jr.? His father, real father, Horo," Scup had pointed out, looking into the distance, ready to get away from her. "No, he wouldn't. He bought me this house, put some money in an account, and told me to stay out of his life and Lance's. I find that hard to believe given you have a way of handling those who threaten you in any kind of way, like your ex-husband." Juma had barked at her. He too was exhausted. This woman was sucking the soul out of him, and he wanted out. She exuded evil. Obviously something was wrong with her. How had Lance not felt it? "True, I thought of that too, but people like Horo are a different breed. I know my limits. You know, I once saw him cut off the ears, nose, and fingers, then hands off some guy and watched him bleed to death. Well, your grandmother wants to see you. She misses you." Juma had cut her short and stood up from his chair, a horrified expression on his face. He clearly did not want to hear any more of this, in case Horo decided he had heard too much and was a loose end. "I will go see her, although I know she holds me responsible for that fire. That is why I have not been to see her in a long time. Maybe she can come here and look after Tunda Jr. if I get arrested. If you two boys report me." Chapter 5. Lance hadn't spoken to his father, Horo, in weeks. He had been ignoring all his calls and had even skipped a family meeting. After reading Ajuma's report, he now knew that Horo had wanted to talk to him about Pendo, because he must have known the truth was about to be revealed. But he wanted justice for the betrayal Pendo and Horo had caused him, and for the late Tunda. It also happened that Juma had secretly recorded the entire conversation with Pendo. Lance had replayed this recording multiple times, and everything Pendo had said matched the information in the report. "I will get justice for myself and Tunda and everyone else those two have ever hurt," Lance announced. "What do you suggest we do? Remember, I'm not law enforcement, just a PI. After a while, I'll anonymously post this recording to the Crime Prevention Division. No one will know its origin, and then we can just sit back and watch the chaos unfold," Lance responded. Juma, surprised by Lance's determination, asked, "Are you sure?" To which Lance firmly replied, "Yes, I am." Fast forward to 6 months later, on a rainy Saturday morning. Lance turned up the volume on his TV. The breaking news reported the overnight arrest of Miss Pendo, a well-known businesswoman, on suspicion of murder. The police were also seeking Mr. Horo for questioning regarding murder allegations. It was believed that he was currently out of the country. Pendo, on the other hand, was being interrogated about the murder of her ex-husband. As Lance leaned back on his couch, sipping his coffee, a small smile appeared on his face. He felt no remorse for his actions. He believed that Pendo and Horo needed to be stopped.